Alyssa, you know, I'm not going to read all the rules. If anybody, I want you to read over them just a minute, just if the members of the committee will. And if you've got any questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I understand there's no changes except for the number required for a quorum.
That's correct.
From the prior session?
That's correct. Before we get together, I would like for each member of this committee to read House Rule 50 and House Rule 18, so you'll understand those rules very well. I think they have them in your packet. Is that correct?
I did not put that.
That's all right. If you look in your rule book, look under House Rule 50 and House Rule 18. They're the ones that govern this committee more than anything else, okay? Do you have any questions about that? All right, I'll stand for a motion on the rules.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the rules as submitted.
Okay, I have a motion to, got a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The rules carry, and so these are our rules for the for the term 2013-14. Okay? Any questions? Okay. All right. Mr. Peak, I think you're going to have some bills on the floor today for our committee. Let me tell you what we're going to do to you. Instead of having 7, you're going to end up with 4. How about that? We're going to combine one with a substitute. That'll help you out a little bit over in rules, I think. Trying to help you a little. But the first one we're going to bring up, and we're going to bring 25 first. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Just make sure you turn your mic on.
Coach me on the bills that you want to.
I'm going to coach you on the ones that we're going to go with.
Okay.
We're going to bring the ones that are individual first.
Okay. And if you ready for me to go?
Start with 25, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll, members of the committee and the new members, glad to have you on the committee, and new folks. If I can just give you a broad overview that'll probably apply to each one of the bills, and then we can go through them each individually. Last year, after 100 years of attempting to make it happen, we got legislation passed through the General Assembly giving the people the right to make a decision of whether they wanted to consolidate Macon, the city of Macon and Bibb County. It's been an effort that's been worked out for a long time, been a specific passion of mine that I felt like it was something that needed to be done for a community like ours. It passed overwhelmingly with almost 58% of the vote last summer, but the one thing I kept hearing from people was, I'm voting for this thing, but why in the world do we still have partisan elections? I'm going to vote for it, but I sure wish as soon as you get this thing done, you need to go back to the General Assembly and fix that so we can have nonpartisan elections for local elected officials. And I know there's a lot of debate about that, but the facts are these. The city of Macon, as it is right now, is the only city, except for, I think, one little small city in the state, in our entire state, that still has partisan elections for its local elected officials. The only city in the entire state. There are 3 other communities that have our size that have consolidated governments: Columbus, Muskogee, Augusta, Richmond, and Athens and Clark County. Each one of those consolidated governments have nonpartisan elections, except for, I think there may be one exception in Columbus, maybe the coroner is not. But for the most part, the mayor, commissioners, all have nonpartisan elections. This is a smart move that has precedent throughout the entire state to move toward a nonpartisan election for the positions of which state law allows. And now they are the mayor, county commissioners, the coroner, the magistrate judge, the municipal judge, the board of education, the probate judge, and the water authority. And they're all in different bills, assuming that we're going to maybe combine some of them. But
let me correct you on that. City commissioners, not county commissioners.
That's correct. I'm sorry. Yes, the new consolidated government commissioners. That's correct. Macon Bibb commissioners. So that's basically it. SB 25 is related to the mayors and commissioners. So if you want to address each one of them individually, that would be, this particular bill would change the consolidated government from partisan elections for mayors and commissioners to a non-partisan election.
Okay. For the members of the committee, this is a general bill in the House of Representatives. It came over from the Senate as a local bill. But in the House of Representatives under House Rule 18, any bill that adjusts anything for partisan or nonpartisan elections is considered a general bill over here. That is why there's no signatures required on the bill. It is a general bill. It will have to go to rules. It will have to be mandated in rules. I just want to make sure the committee understands that ahead of time so that those new members, y'all understand that you don't have to have the requisite signatures on a bill that's a general bill. Okay? Is there any questions of that of members of the committee?
In regard to this, Mr. Chairman, the Senate passed this as a Senate local bill,
Yes, that's correct.
and we passed it as a general bill.
We have to pass it as a general bill in this
That
House,
doesn't mean it has to go back to the Georgia Senate.
only if we amend it.
Right, okay. Fair enough.
Which, am I assuming then that you are
Well,
recommending?
the substitute will have to go back and then have to approve on that substitute.
Okay. And you and I have not had this discussion. That would not be my preference, but I'll defer to the wisdom of the chair of why we're combining the bills. But
I'll explain to you when we get to that one. We're not combining this. Okay, this is your city and mayor and your city commission.
this is related to the mayor and the commissioners only. That's correct.
This is
SB 25.
That's what we're dealing with right now, and I'll explain to the other one on
Okay.
Any questions? Any questions of the author?
I have one question,
Okay.
sir. Mr. Chair, if I could ask one question of, sir, you said this, our chair said this, may I clarify, this does not mean our county commissioners?
It does not. Once we consolidate, this is just related to the charter for the new government of Macon and Bibb. I'm
Yes,
sorry, I
sir.
didn't make that clear.
You did.
So we will not have county commissioners in effect anymore. It will be commissioners only for the new consolidated government.
In
So
your area?
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
it doesn't affect any other
You made it
community
very
throughout the
clear.
state. Right.
I'll try to explain that. Under consolidated governments, it's considered a city within a county. Okay, and that's why it's the way it is. City commissioners are not considered constitutional officers, and so they do not apply to the constitutionality of the partisan bills. Okay,
That's correct.
all right. Any other questions of the author? Okay, at this time, I'll stand for a motion. Mr.
I
Coleman,
move that we do accept it, that we move do pass.
move do pass. Do I have a second? I have a do pass and second. Any discussion? No further discussion. All in favor of the bill, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. House Bill 25 is ready for rules.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
The next bill is a separate bill. Okay, this will be another separate bill. And that is 30. Senate Bill 30.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 30 relates to the Board of Education. Currently, the Board of Education in Bibb County has partisan elections, and we would be moving from partisan elections to nonpartisan elections for the Board of Education. It's an 8-member board elected by the citizens.
Okay. Any questions from members of the committee? It's basically changing from they were partisan and nonpartisan anyway. Were they not?
No, they were partisan
Okay.
positions.
They're partisan.
That's correct. We're moving from...
Chairman, if I could ask, this is going to be your existing Board of Education, is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
And so in the next election cycle, it will be a nonpartisan election.
That is correct.
And now they move from perhaps being partisan to nonpartisan.
That's correct, yes. And it's not affected, the Board of Education is not really affected by the consolidation effort, but we've heard significantly from the public that they want the Board of Education as well to be nonpartisan.
So, in the same process.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Chairman, I have one question.
Sure.
And I think you may have just answered it. In Macon, you don't have a separate Board of Education for the city now, and in the county, It's like one.
That's a good question. There is only one Board of Education for the entire county wide, and not a separate one for the city, no, sir.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, if it's in order, I'd like to make a motion that we do that.
I just got one question for him. Did you change the number of members?
No, sir.
Is it the same number?
They're same number, the same districts as approved by the Justice Department last summer.
So you don't have to do any kind of reapportionment?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir, do not.
Just want to make sure. Okay. I'll entertain a motion now.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that this committee for the do pass.
We have a do pass recommendation. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor of the Senate Bill 30, state by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The bill passes and is ready for rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. The next bill on the agenda is a separate bill, Senate Bill 31.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is related to the Macon Water Authority, which is a separate entity in Bibb County, independent from any other government agency. It has 5 members, I believe, and has partisan elections currently, and same as if the Board of Education, all we're doing is making the change to go from partisan to non-partisan elections for the Macon Water Authority.
Any questions for the Water Authority? Go ahead.
Is there separate, does all the citizens of Maconville get to vote on the water authority, or just the customers of that authority?
All the citizens,
All the citizens.
even if you're not a customer. That's correct.
I've never heard-
No, it is countywide.
I've never heard of a partisan water authority, so that's...
My question to you is, are there any unincorporated areas of Bibb County that are not served by the Water Authority?
I do not think there is, but under oath, I would have to say, I'm not sure I can answer that fully, but
That might be a good question for you later. So, when you get the rules.
When you say served, meaning there may not be water to that particular area, they may be, but they vote, the entire county votes for the Macon Water Authority.
I understand, but later on, just for your information for rules, when you get in there, or maybe on the floor even, because this will be a general bill and will be debated on the floor.
Right.
If you get it out of rules. It might be a good idea to find out if those unincorporated areas can be or will be served by this, in any way or capacity.
And I will, Mr. Chairman, I think that's good input. I feel almost 99% sure that the answer is yes, they are. The entire county is served. But I'll find out for sure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. I will entertain a motion at this time if there's no further discussion or questions.
Motion to approve, to give a due pass against the rules.
Okay, I have a due pass. Do I have a second? We have a second. All in favor of Senate Bill 31, state by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? This one is moving on to Rules 31.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Okay, now, to try to help you out in rules, so you don't have 7 bills, we have consolidated House Bill 26, 27, 29, and 32 into the substitute for Senate Bill 26. And basically what they do, each one of these is your magistrate judge, your probate judge, and your coroner, and one more.
The municipal judge.
And the municipal judge. All of those are judges. They all basically are the same entity. I don't think you're going to have a problem back in the Senate because they're going to handle it as a local bill back in Slogo. Okay? Anybody know I'm sorry. For you,
State and local.
State and local. We call it Slogo, and sometimes it is over in the Senate. Okay, but that's their committee over there that does local bills as ours does. That's our parallel committee. Basically, all of these are judges, Alan, and what we're going to do is just try to put all your judges together on one notion so you don't have to go back each time. The more you go to rules with one of these partisan bills, sometimes the cantankerousness of the rules can kind of get to you there. and it could get cantankerous on the floor. I'm just trying to save you a little time.
Okay. And I'll, again, trust the wisdom of the chair and the wise legal counsel that probably has been given you.
I think you'll be appreciative of this one, okay? So I've been trying to work with you, brother. Okay.
But let me make sure I understand the posture of what would happen, and I'll ask the chair if he can indulge me. This gets passed, if we amend it, we'll need to go, at least not the first three, but this one would need to go back to the Senate and go through its process.
You just go through slow go, which is a 3-day process.
Right. Okay.
You don't have to worry about them the way they take it up. It's just the way we take it up.
Right.
It's just going to go over there as a bill.
Right.
It'll go back over to Senate Bill 26, basically.
Okay. Again, I trust your wisdom, and
I think you're going to find that you'll feel
Okay.
a lot better about that one.
All right. And so I'll introduce that bill at the proper time.
Now, I'm ready for you to start introducing.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, as you've said, SB 26 has now been amended to include...
and we're just going to call that a substitute, a committee substitute.
Committee substitute, committee substitute, to include the following positions: the coroner, the municipal judge, the chief magistrate judge, and the probate judge. And again, each one of these positions, by the way, I should have made that real clear too, each one of these positions sent a letter to the delegation asking us to move these positions to a nonpartisan election. So.
And for the members of the committee, we have been doing magistrate judges and probate judges on and off since I've been on this committee, and that's for about the last 2 years. They are judges. We all consider judges to be nonpartisan in any way. A coroner is a quasi, for you that don't know, is a quasi judge. They actually can call an inquiry, which is a coroner's inquiry, which does require jurors, and to determine the cause of death. So that's basically where they're coming in as far as coroner. There's only one constitutional officer that we're talking about in this regard, and that would be the probate judge. The rest of those positions are not considered constitutional officers. Do you have any questions of me or the author? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion to do pass. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion to second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the substitute, the committee substitute, Senate Bill 26, state by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? This bill is now ready for rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
members of the committee.
And you're doing.
And I'm done. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. I appreciate your prompt response to dealing with this.
And as we usually say, hurry back. We know you'll be there.
I will. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, by the way, Representative Peake, we do have a thing for you from rules, so you can just take it on with you.
That'd be great. Now, can I ask about the process of that?
You're going to have 4 requests in rules for each one of those bills, and each bill and the substitute, okay? And he will get that for you.
Okay. I know. Good, capable hands right here.
Okay. Are you doing that now, Ward?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda for us is looking at population bills, and I don't know how many have watched paint dry, but this can get a little boring. But I need to talk to you about it just a little bit. Sorry, this is Demetrius Douglas, one of our newer members. I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure you got introduced. I'm sorry. Okay. Our population bills are basically bills that have been deemed by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional as far as their subject matter. The only thing that can change in it is the date that they come into being, and which is usually the date of the census, and or the bracket of the population that affects it. What it's done over a period of time has been really, it causes a lot of confusion, because the legislative intent of these laws was to just entail one county or one entity that within that county, within that population bracket. And what has happened is, as the populations have grown or decreased, it has made different things happen within the law that because they were considered general bills, they only affected one county. And the reason that they were cleverly done, it was a clever legal maneuver to get around the old way of doing what we call local legislation. In the past, for you folks that haven't been around as long as Mr. Coleman, he's been here since World War I. In those days, and I think you probably are the only member that remembers this, Mr. Coleman, is the fact that you had to run an ad 3 times. And when you ran an ad, it had to run 3 weeks, and so it would take a month, sometimes even longer, to try to get a bill out. And if you introduced it early, it usually caused some kind of problem, and it usually just goes on and on. And so to get around this little rule that they used to have, they introduced these population bills, which only put a bracket within that entity, which it might have been a school board, a judicial circuit, it could be a city, a municipality, a county, or even one of these new things, and which is one of the reasons I kind of get worried about it, these new districts that we've created within districts. If you remember, Mr. Coleman, we started those things with these, I don't know what you call those things now, multiple member stuff district, and go on in infinitum. And so what I think that, in my honest opinion, as these come up, I want to get rid of them. I want to repeal them and get local legislation back together. And let me try and explain to you why. Because you can't, if this bill comes up, you cannot change the subject matter of the bill. And maybe it needs to be amended, it may need to be changed or whatever. If the bill is a local legislation and a part of a charter, it can be amended. It can actually be changed. It can be adjusted. There may be something that county needs within that scope of that law that they can't do now. The only thing they can do is just change the brackets. And that's really all they can do. And it really doesn't give much flexibility within the law at all, because the subject matter of the bill is considered unconstitutional if you try to change it. So what we're trying to do, as this comes up, to do away with these bills and do it with this part of the law, and then replace it with local legislation like we do now. And so that will be intact and basically legal subject matter that's within the law and the scope that's on the code now. I'm going to get Leo to kind of state, he's been doing some research for us. Hi. I want to introduce you to, young lady. I have 2 that come in. Apologize. Where's my sheet? You done throw my sheet away. Miss Tanya Anderson, I think. What's that?
Kimberly.
Oh, no, you're Kimberly. Okay, Miss Alexandra. Okay. And you're new, and you're from over in...
I'm from the 66th District, Paulding County, and Douglas County.
Okay, over in Douglasville, okay. And we have... Okay, Miss Bentley. Okay, I'm going to just get Bentley. I'm getting you down. You got to get me. Y'all are new. And you're from Reynolds, is that correct?
Douglas County, yes.
Okay, all right. So I've got these 2 new members, and I just wanted to say hi and welcome to the committee. Y'all will be an active part. We're just going over right now the population bills, and just bear with me just a minute, and I'm going to let young Leo here do his thing. And he's been doing some research for me, so Leo, you want to turn on the machine and let her go?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, honorable members of the committee. If you find in the back of your packets, there should be an outline. I've just drafted a general consensus of the Georgia Population Acts. As you know, they're based on population and goes in effect with every census that comes out. And it's supposed to be the July 1st of the first year after the year in which the census is conducted. And basically what I'd put together is all the provisions that give a general outline of what these bills do. For example, the first one basically states the minimum annual salary for a sheriff. No sheriff's compensation can be decreased in their term of office, but the expenses to run the office can also be determined by the budget office of the county. If you go a little bit further down, you could see a simple bracket down at the bottom, and this is basically what Chairman Sims was explaining, how these populations determine simple annual salaries or monthly expenses or even vehicle expenses for the sheriffs as well. So if we go on to the next page, basically states how expenses of operation of courts or any office cannot come out of their salary. It has to be separate and not included. So then down at the bottom, we could see here, did you need one? Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. And down at the bottom is another bracket that is basically for chief magistrates that work 40 hours a week, or known as full-time. And as you can see, for example, any population that's less than 6,000 receives a minimum salary of $29,832,000 a year. And on the next page, is another bracket that basically determines another expense account for each county coroners. So down here at the bottom, I have some simple points. Basically, if a population does decrease, let's say after another 10 years, then the more recent census is used until that term is filled out, is completed. So basically, if it's in the middle of their term, they finish out their term with that salary that's been given to them until they're no longer in office. Now, as it pertains to grants or programs, the effective date of the census shall be July 1st of the first year in which the census is conducted. And when it comes to agencies or other judges that aren't listed, then it should be, I believe, the third year after the census has been conducted. Then I also, on the last page, tried to count all the population acts that have been from the major large cities in Georgia. And as you can see, Albany has done 8, and I've listed each year that they've did so. And finally, at the end, I've included a letter here. This is from Wayne Allen. He works at the Legislative Council, and what his recommendation is for these population acts is simply, I think what the chairman's point is that this can all be handled by local bills. And even these provisions state the same thing. If there's a salary increase or anything pertaining to expenses, it can be all done through a local bill. So what Mr. Wayne Allen suggests is that all these be repealed and resubmitted with a local act. So, and Mr. Chairman, if there's any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
Leo.
Okay, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman,
I'm going to try to help him too. So.
just for understanding, the impact for a county would be if the new census comes in, it could be a budget issue for them because you would have an increase.
You could have, yes, sir.
In that. Okay.
You could also be required for more hires, and it would be if the population, even though your county may not could afford it, because your population increased, you may not can afford the DA or the special prosecutor or whoever else that whoever that you got there, you may not can afford that, but by mandate and by the cleverness of somebody that would say, we need another one, and you're mandated to give us one, that would mandate that county to either change their millage or whatever else they had to do, because there's no way to change the subject matter of that population bill.
But what we're talking about doing is we're going to repeal all of these.
Not at once.
Not at once.
Okay. Now let me explain to you about that one.
A broad brush.
I'll help Leo with that one. The answer to your question on that is no. We're not going to try that. This is not an artillery attack. This is more, an artillery, you just kind of get close and everything is, goes away. But this one's not that way. You have to be more precise with this. Each bill, as it comes up, is going to have to be determined, and we're going to probably repeal them and come back with local edge for that kind of stuff. Now, my idea is this committee's actually going to do a lot of work this year.
I'm going to probably set up some subcommittees to talk with the different delegations, especially ones, as you can see, you've got the Cobb County with 107 bills that would, population bills that affect them. You've got Cobb with 113. You've got Cherokee with 32. Clark with 4, Bibb with 12. That's just, we're not going, that's just the ones that we can find, okay, right now. And he's got, can you show him that? That's the list of the population bills right there, okay? And that's a whole code section, I mean, in itself. Now, if you look at just the cities of Albany 8, Athens, Clark 6, and if you think Clark 4, that's 10. So you got all these bills that you've got to now mandate with these other counties that have now consolidated, and we don't even know if they meet the same criteria, okay? And we don't even know if they meet the standard of what the legislative intent of the bills were to start with. And I think that's where we're probably going to have to start, is those cities and counties that have consolidation to start with, because, and we're going to probably have you guys look at them and then make the recommendations that they drop this, this, and this, and then we'll go from there and bringing those local bills back. They can want to go, if they don't have to do it. Now, it's not something that they have to do, but I think if they really look at these things, I think they're going to want to do that and come back with local legislation that will allow them to adjust their budgets or whatever they're going to have to do so that their millage rates won't have to go up due to cleverness of folks that are there. They can really, really make a big difference in what you do. And I really think that, like Columbus, Muskogee, Clark, I hate to even get into the cab, and Fulton, they're going to be the ones that we're going to have to really look at. We didn't even look at Fulton that heavy, did we? Because Fulton came after D. F comes after D. We got down to the D's. So you can imagine, alphabetically we're going by them, and we're going to have to look at each one. And I think this is going to be a work in progress. And my thought is the same as Mr. Allen, who is our chief of our legislative council over there. We've got to get rid of these things off our books. It's not going to be hard to repeal them. The problem is getting the legislation to back it back up so it doesn't affect your government in an adverse way. That's why we can't broad brush it. Because if we repeal this stuff, it could be a really, really terrible mess out there. We leave it, wide open for speculation, and we don't do that.
But the posture in the future would be if somebody brought one of these population bills, to have to carefully consider it.
Yes, sir.
It would be if they
No, we're not going to carefully consider it. We're going to say you're going to repeal that and come back with, first you're going to have a local bill to enact, and then you're going to repeal the population bill. And that's the way we have to do that on the floor. They're general bills. They're not local bills. They're a general bill. We have to take them to rules. Somebody has to present them, and it's going to have to be the folks from that district. You and I can't repeal a district that we don't live in. And now, if it affects your district and it wasn't an intent, I don't know. I'll have to ask legislative council to that. If it affects your district adversely, and even though it wasn't the legislative intent, it still has to go back to the original. I think it had to go back to the original. So that's why these things are unconstitutional. If you're depending on Cobb County to do something that Gwinnett County was intended, if the intent was for Gwinnett, and it affects now Cobb, and you want it repealed, you have to get somebody from Cobb County to repeal the bill. And that's where this all goes. That's why we're going to require these things to kind of vanish over the years. Any questions? I know this subject is a little bit new to some of you, but it will be interesting. You'll find that it will affect, and how it affects in many, many ways. I've been surprised myself as to the effect, and there are many, many things with judges that are involved here and district attorneys, and that's one of the things that you're going to have to really look at, because that judicial branch gets really nervous when you start messing around with budgets. So, and you don't want a Superior Court judge mad at you, I don't think. But the bottom line is we have to do what we got to do, and we're not going to hurt them. We just want to get it where they can be adjusted within the law, and not with just having to pass it each year, on and on and on. Any questions? All right, well, we will start setting that thing up. You'll get your work cut out for you. Brooks, I promise you I won't make you one of the chairmen, because I know it'll kill you over there in education, but some of you new members are going to get a chance to shine. So I like doing that. You'll be an expert after a while. Trust me, it doesn't take very long to be an expert. You don't have to you don't have to be here long to figure out what an expert is, okay? But I look forward to trying to work with you guys on this. Now, we are going to have, we do handle a lot of legislation. We handled, 391 last year?
I think that was about
391 bills last year. We handle, now you don't come in here 391 times, I promise, but a lot of the bills we can just sign and they go over to the Senate and you don't have to meet on those. If we have controversial bills, I do bring them in here. And if we sit down and we talk about them and we discuss them, let me explain to you what the speakers asked me to do and what all sides have said. This is the deal. We do not debate local bills on the floor. We will not do it. Now, there are times that personalities conflict up here, and I understand that, and people have differences of opinion. We're going to try to let them vet those differences of opinion in here. We have to sit here and listen, and we'll vote those out. If there's a very big controversy within a city or municipality or whatever they got, we'll try to vet it out in here. But the promise is, and on a gentleman's promise, that once we vet it here and whatever goes on here, that's the way it is, okay? And I'll pull the bill, I promise you. I will ask that it be pulled off the floor, not pass at all, if they get out there and start, raising Cain, as we say. So we're trying, and they haven't done that in a while. They do have, sometimes they go down for personal privilege, and that's the individual's right. We don't ask them not to go down for personal privilege, but in that regard, they're not going to let them debate that down there on the floor. The speaker's not going to let that. That's up to him. He has that authority. I don't. But if it gets to becoming a debate on the floor, I'll pull the bill until we get it straightened out. And that didn't mean forever, but I just want to make sure that the cooler heads prevail and we don't have a fuss. And trust me, they get into fusses. And it doesn't have to do with partisanship either. I've seen Democrats fight Democrats, and I've seen Republicans fight Republicans, and I've seen agnostics fight the Christians and the lions and the tigers and the bears and everything else that comes up. But if anything comes from DeKalb, Lord help us. Okay, no, I'm kidding. No, they love to argue over there. They have a lot of good debates. I love them. I love them over there. Because it's, that's really gives us something to do. Brooks, when they come, we know we're going to have a bill. It's going to be fun. And they're not really too bad. But honestly, to take everything into consideration, we're trying our best. Our committee, and I want to try to say this, our committee is to help the communities in which they represent. They come here. We really don't have a real dog in the hunt, basically, with somebody else's community. Our business is to try to help that individual in every possible way, make sure that the bill that they have is constitutional, number one. Number two, that it's going to help that community, and number three, help that individual. That's the three things that I want to make sure that we happen, that we make happen here. Now, sometimes I will question. Somebody will bring me a bill and I'll question what's going on there. Is it the best thing that you can do? And if I ask you that, you can go back and ask those folks. But I do recommend that, for the business committee, that if you get a request from a county, city government, or from a state, or from a board of education, that you get some kind of documentation as to what they want to do, especially if it's controversial. If you've got a 3-2 vote, you might want to look at that. I mean, I'm just telling you, because sometimes or 6-7 vote or whatever your vote is, you might want to look those over before you come running up here. You might want to have some discussion with your local folks before you decide that's what you want to do. Now, you may have an opinion on that, and I'm going to let you have your opinion, and whoever comes in here, that's your bill and your community, whatever you want to do. but I will try to give you advice, and if y'all got questions, if you have questions about a bill, or you want to question somebody that brings a bill in here, I want you to open it up as much as you can. Try to be fair with your questions, but also understand that we don't have a dog in the hunt for that community, whatever that community is. Our job is to help them get whatever they want done in the best possible way for that community and that individual. Any questions? All right. Well, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.